Welcome back, everybody. It's Rodrigo Fonador with another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. This episode, like all of our episodes here, are brought to you by American IRA LLC, your local IRA custodian. If you haven't checked them out or if you're interested in self-directed IRAs, highly encourage you to just tune in, go to their website, reach out to them, and just have a conversation with them. Today, really excited about this episode, not only because it's a buddy of mine, but we're also talking about something that's just an exciting, fun topic. Talking about just marketing strategy in general and maybe some questions if you're an agent, if you're an investor, or if you're just got a business or you're in a business and you're just wanting to stand out and kind of move the needle forward a little bit. So we're going to get into it. But without further ado, let me bring Caleb Welborn on the show.
Thank you, Rodrigo. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
Dude, I'm really glad that we've got this set up. Excited to have a conversation with you today. So, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, I got to say, I love the new podcast studio, and Sean and the folks at American IRA are awesome. So,
yeah, agree. Oh, I also forgot to mention, so one of the new things that we're doing, and I don't know if it's happened yet when, depending on his last episode you listen to or people who are tuning in. Nolan Freeland, who produces the show, he's got a mic now. So he's going to chime in from time to time, maybe if he wants to, maybe if he doesn't. Just wanted to add him to the show because he's been such a valuable contributor to it. So I wanted to make sure he had a voice.
All right,
as well.
Pressure's on, Nolan. Maybe soon they'll let you be in front of the camera, too.
It's already happened. It's coming soon, or it already happened. And we've got an episode coming out together, so it's
not on good. Camera though. Not on camera.
Not on camera. Oh, that's right. It's not on camera. But either way, well, let's talk marketing. I know that's kind of what your specialty is and what your focus is. So do you mind giving us like a 30-second recap of what you do right now, and then tell us how you got there?
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. About a year and a half ago, I started my own business. It's called Welborn Co, and we do custom marketing solutions. So essentially, we go in, and there are a lot of businesses who may be frustrated that, their marketing efforts aren't moving the needle for their business objectives. And a lot of the time, people can get caught up in what's hot right now, say, oh, I got to be on Instagram, I got to be running Facebook ads or this or that, and they haven't really identified how it's going to help them achieve their business goals because they're going straight into tactics rather than a strategy. So we mostly help owner-run businesses as well as real estate investment groups.
Awesome. And how did you fall into that? I mean, like, what did you have to do, or how did you end up, doing what you do? I mean,
yeah. So
it's not like you have years of experience in the field.
I mean, I do, I guess.
Sure, fair enough. But my point is, like, you're on the younger side, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's not like you've got like 20 years that you're working at a marketing agency and you just decided to go out and do your own thing.
Right.
So,
yeah.
like,
I'm 25 right now. I'm turning 26 in May. So I've always been really into, like, when I was a kid, I was really into skateboarding, right? Mm-hmm. And I liked looking at the ads just as much as I liked looking at the like the articles and everything. Mm-hmm. And then I liked the skate videos even almost more than I liked skating. And so I was like getting all my friends to go out and film skate videos and stuff. I was doing all the shooting and the editing, and they would be bored within like 2 minutes of editing, but I'd be there for like 6 hours because I loved it. And so growing up through like high school and stuff, I started developing these skills like video editing and all of this that they weren't really teaching in school. And I kind of had that in my toolbox. And after college, I did study business, and I got the opportunity to basically help build up a marketing program for a fly fishing company that was based out of the area. And I went in, at first I was mostly like packing boxes and stuff, but I was doing it with the idea that I would be able to start moving more and more into the marketing area. And then I was able to do that and basically help them completely build up that program. And then I started getting into the real estate side with my good friend and mentor, Chris Larson. They do...
Who's been on the show.
He's been on the show. Listen to the episode on multifamily. And so with Canal Capital Partners, so they do multifamily acquisitions mostly in the Atlanta area. And they were really great mentors of mine and sort of showed me how I could structure myself as a business and quit my job and then take on that business, which they remain a great client and close friends of mine to this day, and bring them on as a client, and then also bring on basically Canal Capital Partners as a client and make more money than I would just being an employee of, say, Canal Capital Partners and have multiple clients in that way. And
so you've been through a couple of different phases then, right?
Yes. yeah, for sure. So, and
what was the right now you're business owner, self-employed, right? That's the phase you're in.
Yeah.
Be a
So
fair
yeah, my company is set up as an S corp right
Right.
now, and yeah.
I mean, you wake up and you go do things for yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
What phase were you in before that?
You mean like as an employee?
Yeah, were you an employee for the fly fishing
Yes,
company? Was
yeah,
that
yeah, I
the
was
transition fly fishing company to
Mhm.
marketing agency, and then started working with a couple of different companies
Right.
here in the area?
Yes. So yeah, I was an employee
Okay.
with the fly fishing company, and then transitioned to having them as a client. instead.
Awesome. Well, do you mind just sharing your experience really quickly at the fly fishing company, like what you learned or what you were able to implement there that gave you like the confidence to be like, hey, I can go out and replicate this and do this again somewhere else?
Yes. So, and that's a great point. It's once you do something once, it's that you can do it again, and it does give you that confidence. So, I went in and basically I didn't really have anyone above me as far as like marketing goes, So it was a lot of learning for myself, and even the owner of the company has said, like, you got 10 years of experience in like 3 years, and so it was sort of trial by fire. It's like adapt or die, sink or swim, all of that.
No doubt,
And he was great. He gave me a lot of freedom to try and fail and try to implement different things, and basically develop this whole tool belt because I had that opportunity where I was like, man, like this, I had it loosely in my mind, and now it's coming out on paper, and it's like, this can work for anyone. And yeah, so
basically you kind of figured out, developed a strategy at the fly fishing company, and then you've been able to take that and kind of take basically the same framework and apply it to a couple of different businesses to good success then.
Yes, yeah. So one thing I like to talk about a lot is that the principles of marketing have basically always been the same, and they're always going to be the same, and it's just the methods that change. So one thing that people tell me a lot is that the way I can help them break down what they're doing with their business and what they need to be doing, like, oh wow, that you make it sound so simple, but it's kind of like the whole idea of like when someone, let's say like a sculptor like has a block of marble and they chip away at it until what's left is what it's the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of crap right now, especially with like marketing, like what works, what doesn't work, and what people say. There's a lot of crap out there, so it's like once you can chip away all the crap and get back down to the basics,
can zero in on something.
Yeah, exactly. And it should be simple.
Right.
Most of anything that works well actually is simple. It's just like Henry Ford with the first automobile he made. He said it's going to stay essentially the same, but every year there's going to be less and less parts. It's going to become simpler and simpler and simpler. Now you have like, say, like the Teslas that, they just have like a big battery, and it's a pretty simple design. I mean, it's incredible, but it's a lot simpler than, say, like the first car. So
yeah, for sure. Well, why don't you walk us through the framework of this marketing plan, or the bones of what you developed there at the fly fishing company and that you've been working on over the last year and a half or so with different companies, and what does that look like? And remember, this is a real estate related podcast, so a lot of the people who are tuning in are involved in real estate in some way or the other. A lot of times they're 1 or 2 person teams, oftentimes, and then how do you take a marketing strategy and implement it if you're the one doing the implementing and the strategizing?
Right. Yeah, so I do quite a bit of work in real estate as well with different real estate investment groups. And if you're looking to take your marketing to the next level, the first 2 questions to ask yourself are, 1, what am I trying to accomplish? And 2, who am I trying to reach? And a lot of the time, for whatever reason, I guess it's because when you're so entrenched in what you do every day in your business, it's hard to zoom out and see the bigger picture, and you kind of forget. It's easy to forget basic stuff when you're doing the same thing every day.
So what are the 2 questions again? Just want to make sure we don't miss them.
Yeah, the 2 questions are, what are you trying to accomplish, and who are you trying to reach? And sometimes when you talk to people, they kind of get like a surprised look on their face, and they realize they kind of forgot to consider those things before they started running all of these marketing initiatives. But if you don't ask yourself those 2 questions and have a very clear answer, and how it's going to help take your business, move the needle for your business, as you were saying earlier, then you're kind of wasting your time. So
how do you walk through answering those questions? I mean, they're not yes or no questions. They're going to take a lot of thought, it's probably, and it's going to take some time to get to the answers, and sometimes you might not even know what the answers are right off the bat, right? What's that trial and error process look like then?
So it's pretty, it can get pretty in depth, and I would say rather than just more like you were saying, kind of like trial and error, it's more go in deep from the beginning and get the right answers and then keep going. So with that, it would be if you're already an established company, you can go through whether you're selling products, services, or a big source of what you do is raising capital from investors, say like on the real estate investment side, going through all of your customer data and sales data and breaking it down and seeing, what categories people are buying, what, you can look at, age, gender, all of that, even occupation at some times based on however in-depth the data is. So you want to go through all that data first and then start identifying, say, arbitrarily like the 5 or 6 main groups that you can identify in there. And then, the whole idea is the 80-20 rule is 80% of your results come from 20% of whatever. So it's like, why not? And the same thing goes for customers. So why not? And you have limited time, limited resources. Why not place that effort and money that you have for the marketing? Why don't you just focus that on the 20% that are producing 80% of the results? So from there, you have, kind of what is and what exists. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, what are the other high potential target markets that maybe we haven't thought about yet? And so how I usually tell people to go through a brainstorming exercise, which they can do on their own, or if you're listening and you're wanting to do this, you can do on your own, is thinking, a lot of people want to go straight to individuals, but instead, I say think bigger first. So the order goes governments, institutions, businesses, and then individuals. And that's both for potential customers or investors, or it could be potential groups that you collaborate with.
As far as people who you want to talk to.
Yes, or maybe you want to get in front of their customers if they end up matching what the target markets are you come up with. So you end up basically taking the combination of your actual data and then your brainstorming exercise, which then you kind of cut away everything that didn't make sense in there. And then when you combine them, you end up with what is a much more, I guess you could say it's based on data and a much better idea of who your customers actually are and who else is likely to, transact with you in whatever way you want moving forward. And then from that, you take that and then you can create a communication strategy and marketing mix around each of them. I
was going to ask you, what does that look like? So once you know who you're targeting and where they're at, and you've whittled it down to like who your ideal avatar is essentially, right? How do you determine what's the best way to reach them?
Okay, so say someone...
Because you referenced all this marketing crap out there, right?
Yeah.
So how do you whittle that all away so you get this, the ideal way to communicate with them?
So it would generally be in hopefully more than one way, because I think the statistic is something like you need to basically have like 12 touches with someone before they'll transact with you. And so also on that, one thing I try to always remind people is that your most important customer are your current customers, because it's way easier to get someone to transact with you again than it is to get someone to transact with you for the first time. And the key on that is also, how do you get your current customers or investors or whatever to give referrals?
Right, but so let's go back to the how do you choose which marketing method or methods is appropriate for your avatar? Right, like once you've narrowed it down, how do you just because you mentioned, right, there's like a million different ways right now you can market.
So generally, I like to, a lot of people want to go straight into like paid advertising and stuff, which is fine and has its place. But on the leveraging kind of what you already have and sort of squeezing every drop out of that lemon, it's, well, first this will help a bit more, is once you've identified those groups, then you say, where do other people like this hang out? And a really easy, free way to start reaching these people is if you've defined them tightly enough, then you'll be able to say what other groups, organizations, businesses, or say even an individual with like a podcast has already assembled a group of other people that completely fit this avatar.
Right.
And they're all just sitting there, like just waiting for someone to come, give them what you have to offer, or, show what you can do for them. And then they're going to jump all over you instead of you like sitting there and posting on Instagram and, hoping you start getting more followers and then maybe they'll want to talk with you. It's much better to have someone that, those people already trust making.
So you want to build off of somebody else's credibility.
Exactly. Yeah. And then then you get access to their people, and then hopefully you have some method of collecting their information whether it's they go to your website because they heard you on someone's podcast and then fill out your form because they're interested in what you were talking about, or maybe like I've helped people write like ebooks and things like that where people have to enter their information to download it and all of that. So I guess the way to answer it is it really depends on the target market. So it wouldn't be like, you just say, maybe Facebook ads or this or that. It would be, it all starts with the target market. So you say, all right, where do other people like this hang out? And you can look up statistics and things like that. It's like, what, if that group is between, say, 50 and 65, you're probably not going to have, like Instagram, at least now, isn't going to be where you put your eggs in the basket, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's the beauty, right? There's whoever you want to reach, there's a way to reach them effectively.
And then a good way to do it is surveying your current customers too, finding out.
Or just if you can't survey them, you're going to have sales data to go off of, right? In theory, if you collected good information up front, you can at least see who's buying from you, who's working with you, et cetera. So once you decided which method you're going to communicate, what's the best strategy to implement that, right? So it's like, okay, we're going to do an ebook and capture people's information. Do you write it yourself? Like, I mean, how do you, don't talk about the ebook specifically, but how do you go from, okay, now we know what we're going to do to let's do this?
Yeah. So on that, if you're a good writer, you can definitely do it yourself. And the key is just getting started.
But just in general, right? Not the ebook specifically. Do you just kind of go? Do you just pull the trigger and then just track it and then make decisions as you go?
Well, it would be more of a tiered process. So probably your first step should be creating that lead magnet. So, we'll say it's an ebook for now that people have to enter their information to download. And then the rest of your effort goes into driving traffic to that.
Okay.
To start collecting the leads.
So so then the strategies in theory, this is probably applicable to anything, is once you've got a way to collect somebody's information, collect a lead, then you would spend the rest of your time and energy and effort pushing people to that source, whatever it is.
And then once they're in there, you'll want to have hopefully set up some sort of automated campaign, but that's a combination of follow-up calls that you're reminded of, as well as emails that are going out at certain intervals that are driving them closer and closer to whatever
your end goal is.
Yourself at the beginning is, what am I trying to accomplish? Then that's essentially you're pulling people, you're developing them as a lead and trying to pull them through essentially the marketing funnel to try to get them to take the action you want them to take, and then hopefully take that action again and again and again and again, so you can have a high customer lifetime value.
Absolutely. So I'm curious if you've, as you've gone through this, have you worked with anybody where once they went through this process, answered these questions, where it just changed the way they approach things? Or most people just don't have any idea what happens when somebody goes through this process?
Well, so you had the awesome idea of starting the social media mastermind that us and a few other guys are a part of. And the simplest way, I guess, to answer this would be with a good friend, mutual friend of ours, who's in the insurance industry. And just by asking him those two questions, he kind of sat back and then realized that rather than going after end consumers, which was mostly his the whole backbone of everything he'd been trying to do with his marketing tactics, he realized that really what he was trying to accomplish was getting good referrals, and who he was trying to reach was actually business to business, other businesses. So, but everything he was doing was completely not aligned with that. And so once he answered those two questions and he just completely flipped everything around, the next month he came back and was just raving
super
about
energized,
how many, super energized. He's getting all these referrals. He's getting all these partners. He's, and so.
Well, once you get clarity, you can take aggressive action, right? Because you're not doubting what you're doing, if it's working or if it's going to make sense.
Exactly. And so, the part of the name of my company is Custom Marketing Solutions. And while the philosophy and principles are the same, the execution is going to be different for everyone. So, to anyone listening, if you're struggling with that, those two questions will clear up a lot. And there's the good quote, I think it's a Lincoln quote, where if he had 6 hours to chop down a tree, he'd spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. So rather than just trying to chop down a bunch of trees with a blunt axe, that's what a lot of people end up doing when they want to rush into it.
Yeah.
So it's worth sitting back and taking the time to really develop your game plan, and then taking aggressive action on just a few things.
So can I put you on the spot?
I feel like I am on the spot.
Fair enough. What are the answers of those 2 questions for you? Oh
yeah, that is a good one. So I'm trying to reach, I guess it would be either employees of or owners of owner-run businesses, and then real estate investment funds or groups, actually. I mean, that can go from funds to syndications to, and now I'm actually realizing, like yesterday, I had a client of mine refer me to an oil and gas syndicator out of Pittsburgh, and the model of that business is super similar. So I'm realizing I might even want to branch out a bit more there. So it's something you got to continue asking yourself.
I was going to ask you, have you found that there's a healthy rhythm of like how often you should ask these questions and just reevaluate and go over?
Well, I've only been in business for a year and a half, so I've been basically asking myself those things every day, and it's slowly getting more and more clear. Because I would say what I'm doing is, I'm not just trying to be like, I'm not trying to sell ad space or we run digital campaigns, right, or I don't want to be a brochure factory, I suppose. So I want to be more of like a overall integrated solution to help people achieve their business goals through marketing.
So if somebody wants to talk to you about that, what's the best way for them to do that?
Go to the website, welbornco.com. Check it out. See if you feel like we'd be a good fit for what you're trying to accomplish. We have contact forms on there you can fill out, or you can email me at Caleb Welborn at welbornandco.com. It's Welborn with 1 L, Welborn. There's a million ways to spell my last name wrong. I've seen them all.
I can relate to that. I had somebody one time spell my first name with a Q, and it's it was RODIQUO, I think is what it was.
Great.
Yeah, I was like, so first, thank you, I think. I don't know.
Rico.
Yeah.
It's funny.
You can sound it out, I suppose, kind of back into it, but meh. So it sounds like at the end of the day, what you're really working with people is to gain clarity, right?
Yeah, I would say that's a big part of it.
And then the clarity frees up time, mental space to just go after what they want.
Yeah, and also just not wasted energy on stuff that's not producing results. So, I mean, there's stuff like that's social media. It's not even really required to run a good business necessarily. So it is helpful if you're using it in the right way. But everyone wants to focus on kind of what's like sexy with marketing and stuff like that. But I like trying to kind of mix the old school stuff that works with the new school stuff that does as well. And it's just really, it's all about figuring out what your strategy is and then choosing what methods will help you achieve what those business goals are, not just marketing for the sake of marketing, I suppose.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the show today. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Do you have any parting thoughts of wisdom, anything we might have skipped or something I should have asked that I didn't ask?
Well, one thing, I guess that a lot of people can think about that are trying to market themselves better or their business is that it matters a lot more what other people are saying about you than what you're saying about yourself.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, so one thing I try to tell people a lot is if you shouldn't be you have limited time and energy. So instead of putting all of that energy into what content am I creating, what am I putting out through my brand, all of this is, how do I get other people talking about me? So if you have a product-based business, I would say instead of trying to come out with 3, say, just trade-offs. Say you could either come out with 3 of your own videos a week, or using that same amount of time, you could come up with a list of 100 influencers in your space, reach out to them. Again, influencers that have followers within your target markets you've identified. Reach out to them, offer to send them a free product that they're going to put in front of their audience, and then maybe 10 respond to you. You send it to 10 of them, 7 of them do the post. But then you reach, it could be anywhere between like 20,000 or, a 250,000 people if you're going for smaller influencers.
Or it could be the correct 2,000 people that you're going for.
Exactly.
Right? Like just
quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
So, when you're dealing with bigger transaction amounts, like groups that are trying to raise money, you don't really need that many people. Yeah. If people are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars each, it's
well, in real estate, oftentimes, one to two conversations can be a huge momentum swinger and can change like the way a day, month, week, year is going, just depending who you end up talking to. So
yeah, exactly. And a big key to success on that is who introduced you to that person, right? Or what group did you collaborate with that put you in front of their people, and their vote of confidence in your group gave their people the confidence that they need to, write that check or give you the time of day or even take you seriously. So putting that effort into getting other people talking about you in a positive way. And that's, I'd say, I'd rather someone put all their effort into that than put all their effort into talking about themselves, because it's going to yield better results.
No doubt.
As long as they're clear on those two questions: who am I trying to reach, and what am I trying to accomplish?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to those two questions. Gain clarity, folks, and then start executing. Caleb, thanks so much for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rodrigo. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been good. All right, there you guys have it. It's just another episode. Gain some clarity. Answer those questions. If you have, any help on that, reach out to Caleb. His information will be below. Also, as a quick reminder, you guys, May's meetup is going to be our 1-year meetup anniversary, and we've got some special things worked up. Love to see you there. So if you don't have it on your calendars already, please put it on your calendars. Would love to see you there. It's first Wednesday of May at Archetype Brewing here in West Asheville. If you haven't come out, this is the one to come out to. And for those of you who have been coming out, thank you so much, and please come back. Got some exciting things in store to just kind of say thank you and to celebrate 1 year. And
I'll be there.
Yeah, good. Well, we'll see you guys all next week, and see you guys at the meetup. Take care.